Hello and welcome to today's Arsenal News Show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. This isn't going to be an easy show today, and there's a very obvious reason as to why. And 2 days ago, of course, you'll know that we included at the start of our program a well wish towards former Arsenal player, youth player, of course, and uh, to Billy Vigar, in the hope, of course, that we would have in the days that would follow some really positive news. And it is with the heaviest of hearts, I have to tell you, if you're unaware, and I'm sure many of you are aware, that very, very sadly, we have lost Billy, 22 years of age. And very sadly, Billy has indeed died. I don't think I've ever been in this position before. We do this show every single day and have covered some really sad stories. We've lost people in our community, in the channel, listeners, members, friends. But I can't think of a time where I can sit here and remember talking about a footballer so young losing their life, and who, of course, we have spoken about on the channel. We've done loan roundups, we've done news stories, we've done updates on players who left. I remember covering Billy's loan to Derby, where he joined the youth team. And it's just so sad. It's just so sad. I'm going to read you the tribute on the Arsenal website. And sorry that I'm not in the usual jovial mood. And there's some really positive news from an Arsenal perspective that's happened in these last 24 hours that we are going to talk about. But it is impossible to do so without talking about what is just so much more important. On the Arsenal website, it says, everyone at Arsenal Football Club is deeply sorry to hear the tragic passing of Chichester City footballer and forward and former Arsenal Academy player Billy Vigar. Billy joined our academy on schoolboy terms, aged 14, after being scouted at his hometown club of Hove Riverdale FC, and excelled as a striker at Hale End, scoring 17 goals in his debut season. In 2020, his performances earned him a scholarship and joined us full-time for the 2021 season. His intake, including current players Charles Sago Jr., Remy Mitchell, and others such as Amari Hutchinson, Charlie Patino, and Brooke Norton-Cuffy, of course, who I imagine are also going through what I cannot imagine, losing a friend, teammate of theirs, of their cohort. Quick, powerful, and fiercely determined, his first season as a scholar was blighted by serious hamstring injuries, but he made up for it in the second, scoring 4 goals in 18 under-18s appearances and signed professional terms for the club at the end of that 21-22 season. Billy went on to appear for us in the Premier League 2 and EFL Trophy and proved to be an asset across the forward positions and even deputised in defence. His versatility illustrating his commitment to the coaching staff and his team. He enjoyed load spells at Derby County and Eastbourne Borough, and at the end of the 23-24 season, headed back to his native South Coast, signing for Hastings United, prior to a move to Chichester just last month. As well as a significant talent, Billy will always be remembered for his love of the game, pride, and representing our football club. He once called the day he was spotted by our scouts as the most important of his life, and a character beloved by teammates and coaches alike. Our deepest condolences go out to the Vigar family and his many friends at this extremely difficult time. There's not much more I can add really to that tribute. You know, it's just one, and I'm not necessarily going to go into the details of. Well, I've been toiling with this really. I've been really conflicted about the circumstances which very sad led to this. There is, you know, the stories are out there. You can read, indeed, the very sad story in which led to the brain injury that Billy very sadly ended up succumbing to, and of course the petition that has been launched to now ban brick walls being placed next to pitches, which I think is a must. that should not be the case anywhere near, and that player safety is something, obviously, that we talk about a lot, and something that is a continually and ongoing process, not only just, of course, I mean, in particular with circumstances like this, yes, but brain injuries which can emerge much later on in life as a result of playing football as well. So it's a really important and necessary topic to discuss and be aware of. So I recommend going and doing the relevant reading around this, and in any way that you feel that you can contribute or help, please do. But yes, I'll end this segment just by saying once again that, and this phrase obviously you said so much and so often, and it's so frustrating when you have to say it, and it's said every single time with nothing but love and respect. But we do indeed send our thoughts and prayers to Billy's family, and thank him as well for his time with Arsenal and his contribution to the club. And of course, I'm sure he will be remembered very, very fondly by so many, not just of the youth team, but he would have trained, of course, with many of the current senior players in the setup, I'm sure too, who will be also very much having him in their thoughts today and onwards. Let's move forwards now into Arsenal news. And to be honest, I've been struggling so much that I sat here this morning and I had put together kind of some slides, but my head's been so much all over the place that I'll be honest with you that I've not necessarily completed them, because I was just so eager really to get on and talk about what actually was really important. So do forgive me for that. I will throw up on the screen kind of our main topic of discussion for today, if you will, which of course does surround the news that William Saliba is set to sign a brand new contract with Arsenal, which is absolutely massive, 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 massive news from a footballing context. I'm going to just play the credits again, just to give myself and maybe you just 10 seconds to reset, and then we will go into that story. So, William Saliba, as broken by David Ornstein yesterday in The Athletic. And I can tell you, yesterday I was travelling back from Stoke after Arsenal's game against Port Vale. And I remember sitting at Stoke Station. And I talked about this on yesterday's show. We did a little bit of a kind of a special interview with Paul from the Arsenal Vision podcast. And I was in a much more kind of jovial mood at that point. So I do recommend you go and give that show a listen. There was, I had thoughts in my mind about how I would open today's show and the cold open that I wanted to do, but none of that was appropriate in the circumstances. And so I obviously haven't, but we can go and talk about the broader context of what this deal means now. And of course, in part two as well. But William Saliba's contract, I cannot emphasize enough how much of a moment this is. How monumental of a time this is. But yes, I was sitting at Stoke City Station, Stoke-on-Trent Station, and my phone buzzed to the information, of course, that was broken by David Ornstein. Now, when you're in this business, of course, you try and get stories. You're across things, and I've been across the Saliba story for a little while, and every time that anybody here has asked me about Saliba, I've been telling you as to what my information was, and that was that Arsenal had always been, as you know, because you've heard me say it a million times, very calm and confident about the future of William Saliba. I spoke to William Saliba back in March. I tweeted that video yesterday as well, when I asked Saliba whether he could ease the nerves, of course, of Arsenal supporters, to which he said that he was very happy at Arsenal. You saw the video of him talking to the likes of Lee Judges and Curtis from AFTV in Singapore in the summer pre-season tour. And again, he very much kind of gave positive signs about his future and Arsenal as well. So very much the feeling is that, this was something that was going to happen, but we cannot ever take these things for granted. And I think as Arsenal fans, we are so very much attached with PTSD from the early 2010s of losing your Nasris, your Fabregases, your Van Persies. Now, that was a very different time. Arsenal weren't the competitive side that they are now. They wanted to fight for trophies, but were going through quite a lengthening trophy drought at the time. And it wasn't until the arrival of, say, Mesut Ozil in 2013 that provided the catalyst to end that lengthening trophy drought that reached 9 years. Amazingly, Arsenal find themselves in a 6-year trophy drought at the moment, which is rather crazy. Well, I say 6 years, it's 5 and a bit. It'd be closing on 6 at the end of this season if Arsenal don't manage to get a trophy. But one of the narratives, I'll go back to that story I was telling. When that story broke, and as I've been kind of covering, of course, I wasn't in the know at that point about an agreement being found. And so what happens in those situations, of course, when you see a colleague of yours in the space and a journalist, of course, friend of yours who's kind of like put out that information, you're quickly ringing. You have to get on your phone and you're frantically ringing your connections and your sources and speaking to people that can indeed confirm or deny. Now, I'll be honest with you, sometimes whenever I ring a couple of sources and David's put out, and David is incredibly well connected, and most of the time whenever I do kind of try and get a confirmation out of a story, it's that's where we're heading, that's the direction of travel. And sometimes not, and sometimes kind of it's a case of we haven't really necessarily got that stage or whatever, but in this case it was very much what David is saying, where we're at with this is very much the case. And that moment, I think, because of the weight of this transfer, this contract renewal, how important it is, knowing, of course, now that this is going to be something that happens, is monumental for Arsenal. And the reason why it's monumental for Arsenal, beyond just, of course, this is a very important player, a very good player who is committing the best years of his career to this club, there is the narrative that is associated with this. And this is that, from a personal opinion, from a personal perspective, the amount of times I've had debates, of course, or discussions with fans around the idea that what this Arsenal project is, and the frustrations that we haven't lifted the title, and the frustrations that there hasn't yet been a trophy list since the FA Cup in 2020, all the elements around this had been, these guys aren't going to want to stay. If we don't start winning stuff now, these guys are going to go. They're not going to sign new deals. Why would they sign? Well, the reality is that those views were wrong. Those views are very wrong. And I wrote a piece yesterday about this, about the idea that when a fan's going to stop listening to the scaremongers who are trying to tell you one thing that is so far from the reality of what is actually going on, and start listening to what is happening. And in the last 2, 3, 4 seasons, with the finishes that Arsenal have had, the competitivity that Arsenal have had, the fact that they continue to invest and spend and strengthen and continue to battle, continue to progress. Last season in the league wasn't a progressive season, but certainly in the Champions League, beating the likes of Real Madrid and getting to the Champions League semi-finals. Very unfortunate not to get to the final, of course, as well. The players that are involved in this club can see what is happening. Far more than you and me, far more than any content creators, far more than any journalists, far more than any Sky overlap presenters can see. They can see it. They're in it. They are staking their careers on it. And they are the ones that are saying, I want to stay. I want to commit to this club, to this project, to this, wait for it, process. So you need to really start to think about what we're seeing, not just obviously with what's going on the pitch and what's going in games, but what are the players and the people involved in this club doing? Well, what they're doing is that they are indeed committing. And they're doing so confident that they are at the right place to lift the biggest trophies. So whenever I am questioned about how can you still think that we're in the right place, or that Arteta's the right guy, or the Cronkies are doing this or doing that, the reason why I am confident is because I can look at the actions of the players who are staking a lot more than me on this, who aren't necessarily always Arsenal supporters, like I am. They might have Arsenal attachments or, historical nostalgic links to the club as well, as we know that Saliba, of course, does. But they have the ability, if they want to go. Saliba did not have to agree to this contract. He had the biggest club in all of the world and all of this sports history very keenly following him. There's been approaches. We know there's been approaches. And if Saliba wanted to go to Real Madrid, he could have done. But he has decided that he wants to stay with Arsenal. The same as what Gabriel did this year, the same as what Ethan Nwaneri did this year, the same as what Miles Lewis-Skelly did this year, and the same as what we expect Bukayo Saka to do soon as well. And it follows on, of course, from contract renewals of a whole host of players in recent times at this club, in recent years, be that 2024 or 2023, be that the likes of Martin Odegaard, of course, be that the likes of Ben White, who signed a new contract, of course, recently as well, and committed his future to an extended period with the team. We know that, of course, Gabriel Martinelli, and we know that Bukayo Saka recently, obviously, in recent years, did also sign contract extensions with the club. It's just obviously so clear to them that this is a club where they feel they are going to go and win the biggest trophies, and they feel comfortable to commit. It's not a money thing. They could have earned the money they're going to earn at Arsenal at other clubs too that were already competing for big titles as well, like Real Madrid. So please, 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 if you are and have been in doubt, or maybe you've been coerced or dissuaded by some people out there, stop listening to those that are the scaremongers amongst us that try to fracture what obviously has been a very enjoyable period to be an Arsenal fan, watching our team be incredibly competitive and fighting for those trophies with ambitions of course, winning them and hoping to, and hence why they've spent so much and hence why they continue to build the squad in the way that they do. And start listening to the players that we like so much, that we are desperate to see stay. Look at their actions and what those actions tell us. That's my view on this topic. But we're going to get your views and more. Mikel Arteta will be taking his press conference a little bit later on today, around lunchtime. So I'll be there at the Shilbury Royalty Training Centre to hear from Mikel Arteta. I imagine, of course, there'll be comments from Arteta on, obviously, the very sad news that we learned of last night with Billy. And I imagine also there'll be questions around this. Whether he, of course, answers is another question. William Saliba is not, as of yet, officially confirmed to have renewed his deal, so he won't be talking about it in that sense. But I imagine there are ways of asking questions, of course, around the topic as well, which means he can answer them and can indeed think about it in that sense. So I look forward to that. Thank you, obviously, for listening to part one. We're going to jump now to part two, your questions and more. No ad today, for I think what should be obvious reasons, right after this. Okay, this is part two of today's show, where we jump into the chat box and we tackle some of your questions, or maybe just some of your thoughts. It doesn't have to be a question. It can just be things that you're feeling at the moment as well, and things that you would want to say. So we're gonna do that. Kirill starts off. Thank you for the super chat, mate. Says you don't need to do the show today. We all understand. It's okay to stop now. And rest in peace, Billy Vigar. I am fine to continue. I did think about not doing it, but I think it's important to do the show and to talk about it. And yes, it's not easy, but it is important to do it. That is definitely for sure. And I would not have wanted to not do it. Or it says, my sincere sympathies to Billy's family, friends, and teammates. Rest well, Billy. I will try and find that petition, DJ, and I will try and put it into the comment to the description after the show's finished. I will try and find you that petition as best I can. Just saying, as a parent myself, I can't imagine what his parents are going through. So sad. Also says, I've been to Hastings and did not know that he was a native from there. Best wishes to his family. Yeah, Hastings is a lovely place that I, as someone who's from the southeast, has visited on the south coast on many occasions as well. And it's just those kind of links, that they make it, the news like this kind of hit somewhat harder because they feel closer to you. It makes it feel more real. It's very strange, and it hits for me because I've interviewed Arsenal youth players. I didn't have the pleasure of interviewing Billy. But I have interviewed. I've gone to Arsenal youth games and interviewed the players in the field, and that's when you realise, I still feel pretty young at 30, but it's when you interview, of course, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, or even the case of Marley Salmon, who I spoke to, 15 years of age, you realise and recognise just how young these players are. So that again is one of the things that makes it so much more sad of this news. Right, let's move on the conversation to some of your questions. Andy says, I'm very happy that we've the best squad in history, a better sporting director situation in at least the last 15 years. I still think Arteta needs to up his level based on what I have seen. Paul says, a club is big and ambitious when their biggest players want to stay. Keeping Saliba is massive. Shari says, I never thought there'd be that kind of overlap in my life. So sad. I didn't know Billy must have passed him at least a few times as my office overlooks the pitch. Yeah, you must have done, Shari. Raj says, all of our well wishes, of course, to Billy's family. And says, hi, Tom. How long is left on Jurriën Timber's contract? Is it time to extend his as well? I think there's 3 years remaining on his current deal. It expires in 28. So there's 2 and a bit. So at the end of this season, he will have 2 years left on his contract. So, they'll be starting to think about Declan Rice and Jurriën Timber and others. They'll be starting to think about those contracts, definitely, at this point in time, certainly. So there'll be players, I think, next on the list for Andrea Berta to be considering thinking about contract renewals. Contract renewals is an interesting thing because when you renew a player's contract, you're going to be upping wages potentially. So yes, you want to try and keep players locked into a contract for as long as possible, but also you have to think about the fact that if you renew a player too soon, you could end up investing more money than you needed to. So there is a fine balance, of course, to find when it comes to contract renewals, and Arsenal, of course, have always tried to look to do that, but it isn't always the easiest thing to do. Spearmint, thank you for becoming, or if not, continuing your membership, of course, with us. Very much appreciate it. And has been a very clear and antagonistic part of our TGT community. Man Lutata says, did Saliba sign the contract fearing Mosquera? Well, I know. If anything, I think what's important about the signing of Mosquera, yes, it adds competition. Yes, theoretically, it could limit the number of minutes that Saliba plays. But I actually think that this is a positive for Saliba. It means that he's got now a player, of course, who isn't going to be, really struggling to keep up with his level and who can deputise for him, give him longer rests, bring him off in games, rotate him, keep him fresher, make him more competitive as a player. Having that competitive option isn't just something that you need to be aware of for the amount of minutes that you might play, but it's also something that gives you that security as a player as well. Thomas Fulliger says, I can't stand Madrid. They believe they can get everything they want and have some insufferable players. Why would he want to join a club we battered in the Champions League? Derek says, hi, mate. Such sad news regarding Billy. Just back to the football. If we beat Newcastle and Liverpool and drop 2 points to Palace, it would be a good start. Well, I mean, Liverpool's a while away now, but of course, if we do beat Newcastle, oh, sorry, I see. Yes, if we beat Newcastle and then Liverpool drop points at Palace, it's been a good start. I would struggle to disagree with you, Derek. We would be 2 points up on the games played from last season, which obviously shows the progress from the previous campaign. But we've got to win it first. That's the key thing at the moment. Paul says, can we extend Andrea Berta's contract? He's going to negotiate that himself. Negotiate his own contract. Is the next job as well. Tipsy says there has been talk of one more addition to Saliba and Saka, according to Hand of Arsenal. I'm guessing that one is maybe Kai. Don't know. Don't know what the other signing might be. Could be Kai. Could be Timber. Could be Rice. Could be David Raya, potentially. So there's a number of players that obviously are, I think, in line for renewals and maybe improved terms on their contracts as well. Ant says, Tom, is it just me that gets tired that we seem to be the last ones to play on a Sunday? So we are playing catch up every weekend. I get what you mean, but it does come with the territory of being a massive club like Arsenal. You know, you do tend to get put on kind of the the prime slots. But I would say that, you know, Arsenal Newcastle is a massive game away at Newcastle. So yes, certainly it will be one that is the case. James says Havertz needs to be moved on next summer. No, he doesn't. Steve says pressure on for Berta when Dowman comes of age. I can imagine every major club will be sniffing around as well. Oh, without a doubt, you know, 17 years of age is when he can sign that professional contract. But that obviously is a limited contract. And then Arsenal would need to sign him up to a senior contract as soon as feasibly possible after that as well. Manny says it's great that Andrea Berta disguises himself as the hand of Arsenal. They're not the same person. I can attest to that, certainly. But I can see why people think that. Claire says, as soon as you said security, I thought we were getting a non-segue. No, not yet. Not in today's show. I didn't think it was appropriate. Raj says, I just want to thank the gentleman who gifted a membership. Yeah, thank you to whoever that was. It didn't come up on my screen, so I don't even know who that was. But thank you to whoever it was that did do that, and make yourself known to everybody. Oslo says Havertz, Raya, Timber and Raya should be getting new contracts as well. I would absolutely agree. So Ryan says it's a shame what happened to the young defender Leone at Liverpool. They were all right, sure. They are now short, of course, a centre back, but he will be a massive loss. What else on here have we got? It is a strange morning. I understand that it is a strange morning regarding kind of the news, and thank you for those of you that are tuning in, of course, as well. Drone says Berta being hand of Arsenal would have made a fantastic story. Oh, without a doubt, it would have been a great story. I'm very confident to tell you that that's not the case. Yeah, it's you know, for me, the hand of Arsenal situation, and I know he watches the show, so hello to you watching. But what I think about that scenario is that shows you that pretty much anybody can, if they have the time and they have the ambition and the determination to join that space of transfer malarkey, is that you can do that. And it does come through good work. It's not just about who you know. It's not just about having a contact. You've got to build those contacts. You've got to put the effort in to do that. And it's mad that in a position that I am as a journo, that I don't even have the time necessarily. I'm so busy with matches and press conferences and articles and shows and this and that, you know. It's really difficult to build up kind of a contact base and to grow it and to network as well. To have the time to do that. So you got to respect it. It is very impressive. Very, very impressive. Oslo says, do you think that we will ever see a 4-4-2 with Havertz and Gyökeres up top? For me, it would be very interesting to see Kai in the link up with Victor. I think it's definitely feasible. I don't necessarily be a 4-4-2, but it might be like a 4-4-1-1 or a 4-2-3-1 where Havertz is playing off of Gyökeres. It's definitely a feasibility. It's definitely a feasibility, 100%. Hand of Ozil, if you know, you know. Yeah, if you know, you know. But, yeah, changed from hand. Has he changed back now? It was hand of Arsenal. Hand of Ozil, of course, but it's now, yeah, it's still hand of Arsenal. There is a clue. Arthur says, Ben White for Timber for Newcastle, for the Newcastle match. We miss him for our set pieces. Timber is good for set pieces. He has scored a couple of goals for set pieces, to be fair, and defends them quite well too. So I do think Timber should come back in. Lloyd says, man like Berta moving mad. The impact this man has brought for our club is amazing, added to the already quality management, of course, that we have as well. I think I'm going to end things there. It's been half an hour. I've got a really busy morning because I'm heading off to the press conference as well. So that I've got to be aware of. But thank you for listening. Thank you for your kind comments, of course, regarding Billy. And yeah, I think it's important to end the show as we started, just by sending our well wishes towards all those very much affected by this incredibly tragic and sad news. And I hope that there is ramifications, of course, from this, that changes in the way that maybe that stadiums at that level are built and how indeed that they are constructed, and what needs to change around those stadiums to make them more safe. Because there are, of course, stories that you can go and read that give you the information about why that is so important. So I recommend that you go and educate yourselves around the topic, because it is very important. Thank you to you all for listening. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning, bright and early, of course, to discuss the press conference, discuss the answers from Arteta and his thoughts and feelings around everything that, of course, is going to be asked to him today. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.